name, please?
My name is Rochelle Pinkerton.
And what do you teach?
I teach 5th grade.
Okay. Is that the only grade you've ever taught?
No, I've taught in primary as well. A total of 3 years in 1st grade, 1 year in 2nd grade, kind of mixed in between there. And then this is my 3rd year in 5th grade.
Awesome. So all in the general education classroom?
Yes, all in general ed.
Have you ever taught a student with a behavioral or emotional disorder?
I have. I've had a couple of them.
And tell me a little bit about what that's like in your classroom.
Interesting. It's each student has their own individual triggers, so to speak, that just are those things that will get them amped up or get them anxious or whatever their specific emotional or behavioral disability is. And you're not always sure from student to student what each trigger point is. And sometimes you have your known triggers, and other times something completely out of the blue will set them off.
Do you have any examples of those out of the blue things that kind of have set a student off before? For you?
I do. One story that just comes straight to mind is a story when someone had brought in cookies for their birthday. And, we're singing happy birthday and we're taking a break from the learning aspect of school and having a cookie. You think that this would be a great experience. Well, the parent of the birthday kid, as parents always do, they just don't know, bought different kinds. And that's always fun. But my students know my expectations, that you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. And, you should be grateful that you're even getting a cookie. And so the birthday student is passing out their cookies, and as soon as the neighbor of my student had received their cookie, I knew it was going to be a problem. Because my behavioral student had received a yellow cookie, and her neighbor had gotten a purple cookie, and purple is her favorite color. And that just really got to her, and she turns and she looks at me and she goes, "Well, I want a purple cookie." And I explained to her, "Sweetheart, the expectations, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit." And she, of course, that just instant, and she is wailing, she's throwing her head down on the desk, and she looks up again, and I had continued on down the students because I know that when they are starting to have a behavioral fit, I've been working with my special education teachers and building that, explain that sometimes you have to just let the behavior go and not always give it its attention. Because if you give it the attention, then they're kind of getting what they want and they're going to milk it for all it's worth, and it'll actually make the situation worse, as if you just walk away. So I used the tactic of walking away. A couple of students down had gotten a chocolate cookie. He didn't like chocolate. Told him the same thing. You get what you get. You don't throw a fit. Hoping that she would see the connection that, it's not just you. It's everybody in the classroom who may not get what they want. And that's just life.
Right. That's the way it is.
And, but at this point, she had been so amped up that rationalizing was just not an option. It wasn't available to her. She was in such a fit that rational thought, rational conversation would not work. And so she comes up to me after the students have been served, and then they're allowed to eat after everyone's been served. She comes up to me and she says that she wants a purple cookie. And I said, "I understand your desire, and I will give you 2 choices." Because it's another thing that I've been instructed to do with my SPED teacher working with me about making sure that they have choices, because that's a big thing with those behavior and emotional kids. So I said, "Well, you have 2 choices. You can either have a yellow cookie or you can have no cookie at all." And so that just got her even more
round up.
Because, she got choices, but she didn't like either one of them. And so she returns to her desk and is crying and wailing on, and then a moment later she comes to me, and she comes up to my desk and she screams that she wants a cookie, and she bangs her fist down on my desk. And I said, "Well, what happened to the cookie that you were already provided with?" And then all, the other students want to come in and report and let me know what happened. And she had shoved it in her mouth and then spit it in the trash. And I believe that was her response to the choices that I gave her. Is that, she had the yellow cookie, but it wouldn't taste as good or be as good as that purple cookie, because that's what she was so fixated on. And I told her that I'm very sorry that that was the choice that she had decided to make with her cookie, but that no other student is going to get a second cookie and neither will she. And she turns around and she kicks the bookcase behind my desk. And again, okay, now you have two choices. You can either go to the cool down zone or you can go to the principal's office. And so, of course, then she chose to go to the principal's office, and she runs crying and wailing and screaming out of the room, down the hall, to the point that I stepped outside because there's a mirror down to our courtyard. We're on the second floor. You can see down, and I watched her go into the principal's office to make sure that she was safe, and other teachers had popped their heads out of their classrooms because that's how much of a fit that she was in, that she was just crying and screaming and wailing. And we had to get the special education teacher. I had to give her a call to go down and help her calm down, because it wasn't something that I was able to do. I'm not trained to do it. And she just has more of a knowledge and a background with the student than I did to be able to go and do the calming techniques that she knew to get her calmed down.
So you talked a lot about the special education teacher coming and helping. What kind of support does the special education teacher supply to you guys when you are in a situation?
Well, they're always very good about it. Of course, at the beginning of the year, with any student that has any kind of special needs, you do receive the IEP report at the beginning of the year, and then they'll have a conversation with you about things that they've done in the past. If it's a severe case, such as the instance of this girl, I did have a little bit of one-on-one training just with the special education teacher about things I can expect to see, the things that have triggered this student in the past, and then things that I need to do if A happens, this is how I should respond, and if B happens, this is how I respond. And they've done training with me, like make sure that you give them choices. That was a big thing. Always talk in a calm voice. Make sure that you, the first appearance of the behavior, depending on, of course, how severe it is, if it's an endangerment to the student or the students around her or him, to do the technique of walking away and letting them try and calm themselves down before it escalates. Exactly.
Awesome. What is the hardest part about having a student with a behavioral or emotional disorder?
Well, that example that I gave you was during a time when it wasn't really an educational moment. We'd taken a little bit of a break to celebrate a birthday. But when things like that happen during classroom instruction or during those key learning times, it can be a big challenge for lots of people involved. First of all, for me to find the balance between helping the one particular student and helping the rest of my class. It's a challenge for the rest of the class because sometimes that educational time can be taken away. And depending on the severity of the meltdown, might take me away from my students for 1 minute, might take me away from the rest of the students for 10 minutes. And then if I need to get the special education teacher or someone else involved to come and remove that student, then they're being removed from the classroom and they're being removed from the instruction. Then the students in the classroom have to calm themselves down from what had just happened. As much as I'd like to just flip the switch and have them ready to learn again, they need to have some of that self-reflect and debriefing time themselves before they can continue to learn in a valid and receptive manner. And then the poor student, when they have that meltdown, they're very aware of the fact that they acted in a way that is not a typical way for a student to act inside the classroom. So then when they are calmed down enough to return to the classroom and continue learning, they're still really agitated and they're worried. How are the other kids going to look at me? What are they going to say to me? I have to make sure to take time out of the instruction to prep the rest of the students for when that student returns and remind them, yes, something happened, but you need to make sure that we're not talking about it. When they come back, it happened and now we're going to move on and forget about it. And it's hard for those kids because, someone just did something that was very much out of the norm that you don't see a typical student doing that they wouldn't do. It's hard for them to understand exactly why someone would react the way that they did, and especially what they might perceive as a very small or mundane detail to have a meltdown about. and they want to talk about it. They want to know what was that all about, and it's hard for them to be able to rein themselves in. So then the student returns, they're agitated, they're worried, and they're too nervous and stressed to even think about math or science or social studies or whatever it is they returned to the room during. And so the biggest challenge is the educational moments that are taken away from my student with special needs, from the rest of the classroom, from my instruction time, because then I've got to find a way. I have to teach what I have to teach, and then when those moments are disturbed, then trying to find my grounds as well to get everybody caught back up, and then to get the student caught back up on what they had missed.
So is there anything that you right now feel that you could really benefit from, like from support from special ed, or any other techniques or things that would benefit you in the classroom working with students with behavioral?
Well, like I said, my SPED teachers are really good about working cooperatively with me and letting me know things that would help, but I think that it would be more beneficial to me if I knew that a student was coming with a specific disorder, such as a behavior emotional disorder, that I could receive training myself, such as a conference or a convention or something like that, where I could have someone teach me the techniques to help know when the triggers are coming, the telltale signs and things like that, and what I can do about it.
Kind of giving that early intervention.
The more of the preventative. And I feel like when the special ed teachers are and they're completely supportive, but it's more of a reactive. Now that this has happened, this is what we're going to do about it. And I think that training and how to prevent it, things that I can do, maybe even ways to structure my room, how to have this set up, what areas of the room, do I need to have them closer to the door, do I need to have them closer to the window, do I need to have them, should I do isolation, should I have them surrounded by peers, should I have a cool down zone, which is something I've tried in the past, which actually hasn't worked. They don't want to cool down in the classroom because it's very embarrassing to them to have a meltdown. Should I have a cool down zone outside or some place where they can go? I think that just a little bit more of that specific training for this certain disorder that a student has when it's a severe case such as this, that having that knowledge for myself and not just some support, but not just support, but training. Does that make sense?